Hi, I am Krutie. I am a senior front-end consultant and a Nuxt ambassador. And today we are going to learn about Nuxt.js. Similar to Next.js for React, Nuxt.js is an SSR framework for Vue.js. But we can also build static sites and single-page apps using Nuxt. And best way to get started with Nuxt is to go through its documentation here. But you don't have to know everything about Vue.js to pick up Nuxt, because you can always learn Vue concepts on a way to your Nuxt learning journey. So let's jump right in and create one Nuxt app from scratch using create Nuxt app command. So I will go to our terminal and create Nuxt app, my Nuxt app. Running this command will ask you a series of questions such as project name, programming language, package manager, and for the UI framework, we will go with the Bootstrap Vue. And for the Nuxt.js module, we will go with the content module because it is our Git-based headless CMS. And for linting tool, let's go with the prettier, testing framework none, and rendering mode. Now we will here go with the universal because it supports both server-side rendering and static site generation. So we are interested in the static site generation. So let's go with the universal. For deployment target, we have two options, either server or static. So because we are building a static site, I'll go with static. We are not using TypeScript, so let's go with the jsconfig.json. And CI none and Git. Now, because we have selected Bootstrap Vue and our Nox Content module, they will be pre-configured for our Nuxt app. Perfect. Let's cd in to our Nuxt app and open it in the VS Code. So the first thing I would recommend you check out the Nuxt config file of this Nuxt project before you start anything, because Nuxt config is the blueprint of your Nuxt project, and here you will find the deployment target, your meta tags including your global CSS plugins and modules. So as we can see that Bootstrap Vue and the Nuxt content are already added here. Also, the components is set to true. So what this means is that Nuxt will auto-import any Vue component found in this component folder here. So we don't have to write a separate import statement to use any of these Vue components. Now that we know what's in our Nuxt config file, the second thing I recommend you do is familiarize yourself with the directory structure, because at the heart of Nuxt, we have this file-based routing system, right? That means any Vue file we create in the pages directory will become your web page. And surrounding this file-based routing system, Nuxt offers custom features like plugins, modules, server middleware, and more to help us extend and customize Nuxt as per the requirement. Let's go ahead and do yarn dev so that we can see what we are rendering on the home page. So at the moment, we are rendering this tutorial Vue component on the home page. So let's go on localhost 3000 and we should see the tutorial component there. Perfect. Now let's see what we have in this content folder. So this content folder is not the default folder of Nuxt.js, but it's here because we selected Nuxt content module, and that's why it came pre-configured for us. And we can see that we have a sample markdown file here. So let's try to render this markdown on our home page instead of our tutorial component. All right, so let's begin with a special lifecycle hook of Nuxt called Async Data. Async Data, which receives first argument as the context. And we will create one variable for our hello page. And we will fetch the content from our content folder. So as soon as we use this instance $content, Nox Content module knows where to look for that file. So let's simply provide our name of the Markdown file, followed by fetch, and let's return our hello page variable. So as soon as we return something from the async data, it's then available for us to use in the template area. So let's add some basic markup. We can simply print hello page, and let's see what do we have. So we can see that the entire Markdown is printed here. Now let's pre-tag this hello page so we can clearly see what information do we have. So for example, we have slug, we have description, we have title, table of content, body, and we will also have access to the created date, modified date, etc. So this is all possible because we are using Nox Content module. Nox Content module provides us this helper component called Nuxt Content, which accepts document as a prop. So if we were to pass our hello page to this document prop, then it would nicely format the content for us. Let's take a look at our hello.markdown. So this file has simply title, description, and the regular content, right? So with Nox Content module, it provides this amazing feature to live edit your content. So when we are in the localhost 3000, we can simply double click on the content and it will become editable. So let's update the title, so fetching 101 and displaying 101, and then I would click outside and we can see that it has updated our hello.md in our VS Code as well. So this feature could be very useful if you are building a blog using a Nox Content module. Now let's quickly go back to our index.view and talk about why async data worked. So async data worked for us here because it provides us Nuxt context here. And when we use Nox Content module, this module injects this special instance of $content method in Nuxt context, which eventually helps us fetch any files like Markdown, YAML, XML, or even CSV that is located in the content folder. So I would recommend you check out this Nuxt lifecycle hook diagram, which will tell you more about other lifecycle hooks we have, such as Nuxt server init, route middleware, validate, async data, and so on, and how they can help you achieve different things. Also, each and every Nuxt lifecycle hooks, they receive Nuxt context. It is worth understanding what other keys are available to us when we work with the route components. So here we can see that these are the keys available for us, some on the client side, some only on the server side, from the Nuxt context. Also, you won't see $content instance here, because this $content is not available by default. The only reason we can access it from the context is because we are using Nuxt Content module. I hope you are not confused by that. Next, we will try to access multiple Markdown files, right? Currently, we've been working with simply hello.markdown. Instead, I have added 5 Markdown files in a slides folder. So now let's try to access all of this Markdown on our home page. So we will go back into our async data hook where we can write const slides. Now the entire fetch call will remain the same, except for we won't be providing a single Markdown file name. Instead, we will provide name of the folders so that it can return an array of Markdown files for us, right? So now we will simply return slides, and if we print slides.length, it should give us total length of slides, which is 5. Now, because slides is an array, let's loop through each and every slide. So for that, we will use v4 directive, where we can go slide in slides. And in here, we will print individual slide. Right. So now if we see, we should have 5 bullet points. So that means that's working. Now to see it a little better, let's pre-tag it. So we can see the exact same detail we saw earlier. So we have slug, description, title, body, etc. So now when I click on one of the slides, I want to go to the detail page of that slide. So I would simply use the slug, and also we will be using Nuxt link component, which will help you navigate around your Nuxt site. So this is the default component that comes with Nuxt, which accepts 2 as a prop, where we can simply pass in slide.slug. Right? And here we are getting a red squiggly because it's looking for a unique key, which in our case would be slide.slug, because it will always be unique. So now we don't have to see the entire object. So let's go slide.title. And that should create a 5 link for us, which will take us to their individual slide detail page. So currently it's not working because we don't have any dynamic route set up. So let's create one dynamic page. So we'll create new file, and in Nuxt we use underscore in front of your parameter name to create the dynamic page. So it could be underscore name.view, or it could be underscore ID. In our case, we will go with underscore slug. So here, so on the detail page, again, we can use the same async data hook, async data, which receives Nuxt context, but we can also destructure the content directly like that. And we will create another variable called slide, and then we would do await content. And in this case, the first argument is of course the name of the folder where you want to fetch your individual slide from, and the second argument will be your parameter, as in we need to indicate and let Nox Content know that out of these 5, which Markdown file we are trying to fetch. So currently it's appearing in our parameter here. So in this case it's 1. Now to access the parameter in async data, we can use another special Nuxt context key called params. So if we take a look at our Nuxt context diagram, we can see that params is one of the key that's available to us, so which is a short for route.param. So we would go back, add params, and as the second argument, we will add params.slug. So that's how we can fetch the individual slide. And now simply return it, and it should be available for us to use in the template area. So let's add some bootstrap markup. And here we can print our slide. So now if we go to any individual slide, we can see its Markdown content on the screen, right? So here again, we can use our helper component called Nuxt Content, which takes document prop, and we pass in our slide Markdown content into it. So then our content is nicely formatted there. Now we can check other slides and we can see that it's printing just fine. It's not ideal to go from one slide to another using the parameters, right? But Nox Content module is smart enough to provide us with a method that can fetch us the previous and the next slide, depending on the existing one that's open, right? So how do we do that? We can begin with await and $content. The first argument we always have to provide is the name of the folder, because we are dealing with the multiple Markdown files located in a single folder. And after that, Nuxt Content module provides us a very handy set of chainable function. So one of them is called surround. So we can write surround, which accepts the active or the current parameter.slug, indicating that we want to fetch one slide before this current item and the one after. So we will just follow it up by fetch. What it returns is the array with the two items. So we can simply destructure it, say const first item and the second item. Right? So essentially, this first item is your previous slide, and this second item is your next slide. And we can simply return them so that they are available for us in the template area. And after that, we will again use the Nuxt link component so that we can navigate between the back and the next slide, right? So under the two, we're gonna provide previous.slug, right? So what we have in this previous object is the entire signature of your Markdown. So we will get slug, title, description, everything. But for our Nuxt link to work, we will use our previous.slug that will make our dynamic page work as it should. So we're going to say previous. Now, what will happen when we are on the first slide is that we may not have the previous slide in that instance. So let's add a condition that only when the previous item is returned, print previous. Otherwise, for the next.slug and next. Let's save and test. So we can see that we have next button and next and the previous button. Before we end, I would like to take you through this visual for Nox Content module, and you can follow the colors to see that there are three parts to the Nox Content module. The way you write your content. You can write your content in YAML, CSV, JSON, XML, etc. And then there are ways you can fetch your content. So here are the further chainable methods that we have available when we fetch the data from our content folder. And finally, the way you display your content. So that's the third part of this Nox Content module that you can check it out here. And also we have the Nox Content Documentation, which I recommend you read through once. It will give you further details about how you can use the content module. And finally, you can check out my website, krutiepatel.com, which is built using Nuxt and the content module that we just saw. Here you will find my Twitter, Medium, GitHub, so you can reach out to me if you have any further question for Nuxt or the content module. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krutie. That was an amazing talk. And I actually got a lot of new insights, which I didn't know about Nuxt. So that was an amazing talk. Thank you for that.
Cool. Thank you.
Let's see if we have some questions. If not, I have some questions.
I don't have a question, but I will love you. You just show when you browser, you add the Markdown content, then it changes in the editor. I think this is very amazing. I love it.
Live editing, yes. We were really excited for that feature. Even when we saw it for the first time, we were like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Any questions, Noor or Jay, you want to ask Krutie?
I don't have so much question, but it's like really nice to see Nuxt.js. Like I have a little bit of experience with it before, and then I love that it's like quite similar to Next.js in many ways. So it was like really fun to watch how she was going through the stuff that she was going through.
It was hard to decide what to keep and what to remove, because I want to say so much. But yeah. I'm always available if anyone wants to learn more about Nuxt. Also, since we are here and I'm a Nuxt ambassador, so I'm going to say this, that we have our very first Nuxt Nation conference happening, which is free event. So any one of you can attend. It's on 15 and 16 September. So you will get to hear the talk from the authors. So cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. please join. If you can send a link, that will be really helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I quickly have one question. What would you say when somebody wants to sort of migrate from some other framework to Nuxt? What are the challenges?
I think I would follow it up by what Noor said. Of course, we need to see the capability that in the team who is well versed with Nuxt. But then again, I would say that if someone is coming from Next.js, I think there's so much we can relate because I think Nuxt was introduced after Next.js was released. So yeah. And another thing that I would recommend is to review the content of your current website that you're trying to migrate, because in Nuxt, we have a hybrid mode as well. So you can pick up a set of routes which you don't want to statically generate it. So you can have this small SPA going on in your static website. So because static websites is all the rage these days. So in it, if you have a booking feature or the e-commerce shopping cart feature, you can completely remove those routes from being statically generated and make sure that they are they can act as a single page app. So that's always a good idea. But yeah, other than even with the Nuxt, you have all three options. You can do server rendering, you can do single page, and also you can do the static generation. So all the options are there.
Cool. I think I'll go with the last question and that's it. How do you really manage state in Nuxt?
So we do have, can I share something quickly?
Yeah, that would be great, yeah.
Right. All right, so I'm going to quickly go to sorry. Let's go to diagram.
Just share and share screen.
Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh.
Just click on the share button and then maybe it'll ask you for an option.
Right. It was 2-click process. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now?
Yep. Now we can see it.
Perfect. So sorry, wrong diagram. The slide that I wanted to show was the directory structure. All right, we are back on track. So here we can see we have this folder called store, which is completely optional in Nuxt directory, only when you have a Vuex store, which I think it's as similar as we have Redux in React. So for Vue, we have Vuex, which is our state management. And as soon as you create this store folder with your index.js, and believe me, it could be empty, and the Vuex store will be activated in your Nuxt project. So same goes for module, server, middleware, plugins, all these options. All these folders are optional, but you can use them to customize your Nuxt further than the default, which is your least minimum required folder is the page component. But yeah, you can add your store, Vuex store as well in it. It's as simple as creating a store and a store folder and your index.js file in it.
Thank you.
I hope that answered the question.